COTU Secretary General has sparked some fresh debate. He argues that Kenya does not need young leaders, and he mentioned this at a time when young leaders want to take over leadership of this country. What he said, "Let no one tell you that this country needs young leaders. Nowhere in the world. How old is Donald Trump? Even the Italian president is 93 years. He has to be assisted to the podium. Even me, why do you think workers in Kenya have stuck with me all these years? They don't want to let me go." This statement from Atwoli raises the question of age and leadership. Does young age lead to good leadership? It may not be, because we've had other countries where young leaders have been in power and in fact they've performed so badly. But does old age lead to good leadership? No, it doesn't automatically lead to good leadership, because we have many countries that have been led by old people who have performed so badly. However, we have some where they've been led by old people and they've done a good job. So when you look at leadership, it's not barely or merely the issue of old age or young age, but it's about the integrity, the willingness of an individual to do what is good for their country. So I agree with Atwoli to some extent that this country does not need young leaders. Instead, this country needs leaders with integrity, leaders who have the goodwill, leaders who are willing to do the right thing for this country. Because even right now, we have young parliamentarians. Kenyans have elected young parliamentarians and they did not start electing them now. And statistically, they have not done really a good job. So saying that Kenya just needs young leaders, no, that's not the case. Kenya needs leaders who can work for them. That is it. I know this is controversial and many people are throwing shade or salvos at Atwoli, but the fact remains, Kenya doesn't need young leaders. What Kenya needs is good leaders, leaders who want to do the right thing. That is it. And we should also agree that politics is competition. So old and young will definitely throw themselves, to the ring to compete. We have the young, we have the old. It's voters who will choose. And in many cases, the old come with the resources. They have accumulated resources and all that. And sometimes people would elect them. From where I come from, there was a time my ward elected a young member of county assembly. And this guy did a terrible job. A terrible job to a level people wanted, the guy who was actually old back in office. So what does it tell you? It tells you that young age is not equal, or it's not an equivalent to good leadership. That is a fact. So moving forward, Kenyans should actually consider that as much as we want young people, that one does not necessarily translate into good leadership. But we can still have leaders who are old and can do a good job. But it doesn't mean that old age translates into good leadership. So you just have to make the right choice. Additionally, Atwoli gave a piece of advice to young people, and I think this piece of advice is actually important, and just listening.
Naomba tu wetu wa Kenya. Naomba nyinyi. I've been around for some times. I've been in leadership for more than 50 years. And I always advise people. It's always better 1,000 times to have a bad government than not to have one. Afadhali uwe na serikali katika nchi yako kuliko kutokuwa na serikali. Sasa hivi mimi nilikuwa na ofisi kule Sudan, Khartoum, kwa ajili mimi ni president wa the larger Eastern African Trade Union Confederation kutoka Madagascar mpaka Eritrea. Kule Khartoum huwezi ingia, nchi ilikuwa sawa, huwezi kuingia kule, hakuna immigration, hakuna nini, kuna chakula, watu walihama, ilibidi tuhamishe ofisi yetu tupeleke Cairo. Kwenda Goma kule Kongo, kwenda zile nchi ambazo na shida. Angalia katika televisheni yako yale yanayofanyika katika Gaza. Mwaka wa 94 watu walimalizana Rwanda. Ukifikiria utaleta fujo na uone raha, hautaona. And the world is watching. You will butcher yourself while the international world is watching. Nobody will come for your aid. Keep peace. And nataka kuadvise also Gen Zs, mjue ya kwamba with stability in the country, future is there for you. Na mzozo ukitokea, hamtakuwako, mtasambaratika, hautajua pahali mama yako alienda na baba yako. Let's keep this nation. Let's support the president. Let's support the government. Whether you are in or not, afadhali ulale njaa kwa nchi ambayo ina amani. I'm telling you, as a man who has been around for some times, peace is most important. Asante kwa kunisikiza. Mzee aende vizuri mama.
Let's be brutally honest that as much as we want change in our country, we want better leadership. What Atwoli here has said is something that makes sense. That, okay, we want that change, but let's not put our country in a situation that it can deteriorate to a point where we can't have return without loss of life, without loss of property, and finally a collapse of a government or even a collapse of a country. And it is true that the international community will be watching, because we know countries that right now are at war. Is the international community that much involved? It is not. It is you fighting for yourselves. Okay, they will come in, okay, we want to assist, NGOs will be there and all that, but at the end of it, your country will be burning. It is fine that young people really take this seriously. As we complain, let's do it, but let's not put our country on a trajectory that will be dangerous. What do you think of these sentiments from Atwoli? What's your reaction?